beef stew, I think, has a really bad rap in this country because stew has those connotations of school dinners and sort of really, really boring, plain fare. And we go mad for things like goulash and boeuf bourguignon and daube. But actually, the British make really great stews. To prepare the beef, we need to trim away most of this sinew here, which is actually going to make it quite tough. This is shin of beef. I did try another traditional stewing cut, which is chuck, and which the Leith's Meat Bible uses, but I found that it's a lot drier than shin. The next thing is to toss the beef in some flour and some seasoning, and this will eventually thicken the sauce. 2 tablespoons of flour should be ample. Generous pinch of salt. And then you can just toss them all together. I like to use my hand, although it can get a bit messy. Just so they're all lightly coated, you don't need to incorporate all the flour in there. So I'm using a cast iron casserole pan for this, which has the benefit of being heavy based, so the thing won't burn when it's on the hob. I think beef dripping as you're cooking with beef gives a bit of a beefier flavour. Melt that as you would butter or oil, and then we are going to briefly brown the meat so you get that lovely caramelised crust on it, which will hopefully make the gravy taste absolutely delicious. It's really important not to overcrowd the pan, because if you do, then the beef's just going to steam in its own juices rather than frying. The basics of many British stews are onions and carrots. So Hugh Fearn-Whitting's store uses baby onions, which are often sold as pickling onions, in his stew, but I find them quite difficult to get hold of for most of the year, and also they're really fiddly to peel. Remember, you don't want the onions to burn, but you do want them to colour slightly, because again that will give a little bit more flavour to the gravy. So we're going to tip those out and you can put them with the beef. So now we're going to put in the stock. We need 300 millilitres of beef stock. Now, ideally you'd be using homemade stock. You could also use a good ready-made stock like this, or at a pinch you could use a beef stock cube. It just won't give such a nice rich flavour to the end gravy. So you just need to pour a little bit of the stock in and then just scrape around the bottom of the pan with a wooden spoon, just to get all those lovely crusty bits that have come from the cooking of the beef and the onions incorporated into the stock. And then add the rest of the stock. And then you also want 300 millilitres of stout. So I said I'm using a milk stout, as it used to be called. Now you want the beef to be just covered by the liquid. So if you haven't got quite enough, this is fine. If you haven't got quite enough and there's lots sticking out of the top, then just add a little more stock or water. I'm just going to put in a bay leaf as an aromatic, and a few sprigs of thyme. Now you want to bring it up to the boil, to turn the heat up a little bit. Once it begins to boil, you need to put the lid on and turn the heat down to a low to moderate heat. Leave that simmering for 2 hours, and then we will add the rest of the vegetables, the carrots and the turnips. Some recipes add the carrots right at the beginning, but I think that makes them very, very soft after 3 hours of simmering. Turnips are there to give the stew a little bit of body. I really like turnips, but I know not everyone does. So you could also use parsnips, which are a little bit sweeter, or celeriac, or any kind of root vegetable, swede. Just had to remember not to add it too soon. You need it to cook through but not go mushy. And also to cut it into even-sized chunks so it all cooks evenly. So this will now simmer away for an hour just to cook those vegetables, and then ideally what you'd want to do is leave it overnight for the flavours to develop. This is one that I did cook yesterday in a manner of TV cooks. Here's one I made earlier, and you'll see what leaving it also does is bring all the fat to the top, and you can then very easily take that fat off, or most of that fat off, so your sauce will be more meaty. This is just coming up to a simmer now, so while that heats, we are going to make the dumplings. Now the dumplings are made from plain flour, a little bit of baking powder, some suet and some chives and parsley to flavour them. And you need to add as much cold water as you need to bring it into a dough. So just add a little bit at a time and then give it a good stir. You don't want them to be too wet or they'll fall apart in the stew. You could also use eggs, which makes them a little bit richer. Hugh Fearnley-Winterstall does that in his meat book, but I don't really think you need it. I think dumplings sort of are quite a plain school dinner-y type thing, and they're nice just like that, so I'm just going to use water and suet. So once the stew has come back up to a simmer, you can add the dumplings. They'll take about 25 minutes to cook. You just want to plop them on the top, and then you can just leave them to simmer for about 25 minutes. Turn them over a couple of times during cooking just so that they cook evenly, but the idea is that they just steam as the stew simmers. Now, depending on how hungry you are, and I find that stew usually goes down quite well, this should serve between 4 to 6 people. It keeps beautifully. You can freeze it, or you can keep eating it for a couple of days, because I think the longer you leave it, within reason obviously, 2 or 3 days is fine, the better it gets.